Perhaps my favorite event in Lads to Leaders is debate. This short video is to give basic pointers to those who are about to judge debate. Now, what I'm about to say to you will mean more if you have a copy of the score sheet for debate judges in front of you. There's a free download available for that by Googling Lads to Leaders Rule Book. The room's going to be set up with chairs for the small audience, and at the front, 2 tables, end to end, divided by the podium. One debate team consisting of 2 students will be sitting at one table, the other at the adjoining table. The lead judge will call the room to order and explain how the debate will be conducted. Now, a typical debate takes about 45 minutes. One of the judges or someone they appoint will be the timekeeper. Every debate team will come to the convention knowing that they have 2 debates and will argue both sides of the issue. Now, I want you to first understand the concept of debate. Through the years, I've heard many parents say, "I know my son or daughter will be great at debate. They love to argue." Well, I can see why these parents might think that way, but it's based on a common misunderstanding about actual debate competition. While we often use the word argument in debate, it's a much more refined form of arguing. The force of my position isn't going to be won by how angry I am or about how loudly I say a thing or even how dramatically I might express a thought. A debate is won by controlled, critical thinking. The contest is won by using the persuasion of thought expressed in articulate language. Now, let's talk about terms that you'll need to know. Proposition. The centerpiece of a debate is called the proposition or resolution. It's just an assertion that is stated as a fact. For example, a debate could be conducted on the proposition, the Church of Christ began in Acts 2 of the Bible. One team is called the affirmative team. They would say, yes, that's true. The other team is the negative team. They're saying, no, that is not true, but false. The proposition is the statement we're debating. Now, let's talk about constructive speeches. This debate will occur in an orderly, structured fashion. Each of the 4 debaters will make one constructive speech. First, a member of the affirmative team will make his or her first constructive speech. We call it the affirmative constructive, which simply means he's building the audience's understanding about the truthfulness of the proposition. He's building his case, so we use the word constructive. We sometimes shorten it to simply say 1AC, first affirmative constructive. This first speaker has the duty to define the main words of the proposition clearly. Then the second speech will be from the negative team as they construct the reasons they're denying the truthfulness of the proposition. That's called the 1NC, or first negative constructive. Their partners will follow with the 2AC and then the 2NC. The major points of each side that they're making are called arguments. As you listen to each of the constructive speeches, you should see 3 or 4 main arguments come to the surface. You should write these down. You can just scribble them down briefly, but it's important so that you can look at them later during rebuttals. Now, the term rebuttal. After both sides have constructed their beliefs for or against the proposition, there will be a 5-minute break for the debate teams to discuss and prepare, and then we'll begin the 3-minute rebuttals. Each of the 4 debaters will present a rebuttal speech. During this time, no new arguments will be permitted. Rebuttals are solely for the purpose of pointing out the weaknesses in your opponent's arguments, and it must be done extemporaneously. Rebuttals cannot be written ahead of time because debaters don't know what their opponents will say. As each debater presents his rebuttals, look back at your list of arguments that his opponents gave in the constructive speeches. Do the rebuttals address all of his opponent's arguments? If not, that's a weakness. Does the debater do a good job of explaining why his opponent's constructive arguments should be rejected? As you look to the rebuttal speeches, keep an eye on the list of arguments you made earlier. A great debate team will make it easy for the judge by saying something such as, "Our opponents made the following 3 arguments, and I'd like to address them in order. Pay the most attention to the rebuttal speeches. It's here that the students show you the depth of their preparation and how well they really understand the proposition. A good team will listen to their opponent's constructive speeches with a pencil and paper, making a list of the arguments and brief notes about how they want to rebut them. You will also listen for any new arguments raised during rebuttals and penalize appropriately for these. The rebuttal period is not for introducing new arguments, but for each team to carefully scrutinize the arguments that have already been made. One more thing about rebuttals. During his constructive speech, it is permissible for a debater to begin rebutting his opponents if he has the time. As a judge, you will determine which students most persuasively expressed their side of the argument within the guidelines of the rules. The score sheet, by design, leaves the judge the freedom to determine who did the best in the details of the debate, but also which team was actually best in persuading their audience. This score sheet is for your private use, not to be given to the students. The score sheet will give you the following things to score and to consider: rebuttal, organization, evidence, and delivery. You'll need to think about the overall strategy of the debaters. Are the arguments logically put together and easy to follow? Did you understand what the debater was trying to say? That'll be critical in judging. Now, let's review. The proposition or resolution is an assertion presented as fact. The affirmative team is arguing that the statement is true. The negative team is arguing that it is false. Each debater will make a constructive speech establishing his team's position in a series of well-stated arguments. After that, each debater will have the chance in rebuttals to examine his opponent's arguments and explain where the weaknesses or fallacies are. So you have 4 debaters who will be making 2 speeches, a constructive and a rebuttal speech each. A debate then has 8 total speeches. Thank you for agreeing to judge debate and for being an important part of Lads to Leaders. And don't forget to keep praying for all of our great young people.